we're back.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing today, Luce?
I'm good. I got something stuck in my eye, and so if you guys see me blink funny or pause a lot, it's because it hurts to blink. But I think it's from the earlier face mask that I had. I was just messing around with it, and then I got some goop in my eye. I think that's what it is. Some vitamin C goop.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be all right, though.
But vitamin C is important to kick this Rona and this, just for your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin D too. So hit up Tinder. And your daily dose of zinc as well. Meats and poultry, good for you. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
You had the day off?
I've had the past 6 days off. I've been on vacation.
Ciao.
So that's been pretty nice. And it's up. Today's my last day, and I have to go back to work tomorrow.
No, call off.
I wish I could. But I need money.
You would. I would be that person to say call off. Do you have those people, bad influences in your life telling you call off?
You are the bad influence.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, so what are we talking about today?
So today's episode, we thought it'd be a good idea to tackle into the ideas of cancel culture.
Ooh, cancel. That's a good one.
Very controversial.
Controversial.
But we're all about that here.
The first time I've heard the word cancel is probably in elementary school, which means like stop that, or like to divert, kind of, in a way. That's like my instinct when I think of cancel, because that's my fundamental thinking of it.
So the first time you heard cancel was in elementary school.
Where it's like divert, stop, cancel my order. That too at Jack all the time. When I used to work at Jack in the Box all the time, cancel it. I would hear that, especially in the drive-thru. Cancel my order. Oh, you guys don't have curly fries? Cancel my order.
I don't want it anymore. I think in modern times now, cancel, the big thing that really happened, that really started cancel culture was back in, I think it was 2016 with the whole Taylor Swift is over party.
Oh.
And but it all started even further back in 2009, and even further back in a lab in Wuhan.
They canceled everything.
But
they canceled prom. They canceled 2020. They canceled.
But so it all started back in 2009 at the VMAs when she won album of the year, and Kanye said, obviously his infamous speech, but I
really liked his haircut.
Oh yeah,
when he interrupted it, his haircut was pretty dope. It had like swirls in it and shit.
And I like Kanye West music. He puts out really cool stuff, and I love Taylor Swift too. It's just terrible that's what happens to artists. But yeah, so they kind of mended their relationship, and it took a couple of years, but for a good 4 or 5 years they were pretty okay. But in 2016, Kanye West put out a song called Famous, and with that he had a clear verse about Taylor Swift, and she took to Twitter saying, I don't approve of this. I never would approve of this ever. I would never wanted to be demeaned and called a bitch in a song that way. And then a couple days later, Kim, this is with the infamous part, she puts on Snapchat the leaked recorded conversation of her and Kanye clearly talking about the song, and that he'd explained to Taylor Swift, here's what I'm saying. And she thought, oh, that's cool, be funny, people won't expect it. And she immediately got and it was the first time the over party was happened. So it was like hashtag Taylor Swift is over party. And they just got after her, and like everyone thought she's a liar, she's a snake, she's always made up everything that's happened to her.
I clearly remember, I think it was on, maybe like on E! News, so one of those platforms that they were like, they were basically displaying all the tweets, kind of quote unquote canceling her, and you just see snake emojis like in a row. Just like a whole feed of them.
But the funny thing about it is that it during the whole quarantine happened, it was right at the start of March. The whole video, it was like a 20-minute conversation leaked on Twitter of the full context of what that conversation between Taylor and Kanye was. And when you saw it, you really did see that he had talked to her about the song, sure. He never fully put the whole verse out, and she was even still hesitant about it. She was like, yeah, well, I'm trying to make it work, but, you know, is what you're saying mean? Is it degrading? Like, she was, like, trying to get, like, to the bottom of it. And
how long was it? I haven't watched the video yet. How long was it?
The video, it's like 20 minutes. Like, if you go online and you look it up, like, the full version. When Kim first leaked her videos on Instagram, on Snapchat, she'd only played like a minute worth of it. And when you watch it back, it's cut up. It's out of context. It's showing little parts. But when you watch it all, you realize, oh wait, Taylor Swift was telling the truth the whole time. She didn't approve of it. Like, she didn't hear everything. And you just saw Twitter like do like hashtag Taylor was telling the truth. And then you saw, you know, everyone go to like Kanye West is over party, Kim Kardashian is over party, because they're like, oh, you guys were liars the whole time. You guys were the snakes. And even Kim was just like, no, I'm still sticking to what I said. She still lied about some things. And it's just, the whole idea of like cancel culture is crazy, because it's like everyone was so, you know, quick to believe this one thing and say, oh, obviously she's a liar, but without even having full context, just this snippet of it. And actually, I was talking to my friend Isaiah, and I told him we were gonna be talking about this, and you know, we really kind of have dehumanized people. And something he had said was, you know, people are so willing to completely ruin someone's life over a rumor. And basically it happens because, and he says, it's like they're sitting behind a keyboard. That's courage with that. Mm-hmm. Because
like in your own kind of bubble or corner, in a sense.
Exactly. It's like I'm sitting behind my keyboard, my screen, my phone, and I can say almost anonymously anything. Who's going to stop me? Of course I'm going to chime in with an opinion. Hey, everyone's calling out this person saying, oh, they're a liar, they're a snake. Why don't I want to? I want to be part of the culture. I want to be part of, you know, something happening in a movement with my friends. Like, oh, yeah. And so it's very easy for people to latch on to that without even having all of the facts. And this
was in March, you said?
Oh, this had happened when the full video had leaked. This was in March that it came out in
of this year.
And everyone had joked on Twitter saying, man, someone must have been really bored in quarantine to decide, you know what, I'm gonna leak the whole video 4 years later.
We gotta stay relevant.
And it also makes me think about the whole Tati and James Charles feud. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that.
But it was back last summer, 2019, when out of nowhere, she had gotten called out for something, and she went on like an Instagram rant, and then the video dropped. Bears? Yeah.
Wasn't it over gummy bears?
Oh, you what? Can I have a gummy bear?
Yeah, you can.
It all started over some gummy bears. And that was kind of the whole, triggering point. But basically one day she dropped a video called Bye Sister, and she just laid it out on James Charles and had just said, I'm done, I'm fed up, I don't approve of you, I don't approve of your behavior, and let me tell you why. And here are my receipts and everything. And everyone turned on James Charles. Everyone. Celebrities had followed him. They dropped him. Shawn Mendes, Demi Lovato, they all just unfollowed him instantly. And and his subscriber count was the biggest blow to it. This had a precedence that had never happened before. You just saw him at like something like 16 million subscribers, and he was losing like 1 million every day. It was just dropping.
I remember showing us like live. It would be like ding 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 down.
And it was insane to see it. And it was really a weird reversal, because normally when people, Charles, someone who has 16 million subscribers, big beauty guru, you think someone, Tati, who had like 5 million subscribers at the time, someone who's, in a smaller, in terms of those numbers, smaller than James, the idea was, and even Tati said, I was sure I was going to be canceled the minute I said it, because James has this big following, everything. Of course they would come after me. Of course I would be the one to lose everything. But it was really reverse. And she gained all his subscribers. She had dropped all of these numbers, and you just saw Tati's on Social Blade just go up, and she had finally hit, 10 million in the week that had gone, and people really rallied behind her.
You know what I'm interested in the demographics of those subscribers that unsubscribed. Like, what age were they? Because I think not that age has everything to do with it, but I'm just interested. Like, I wonder what was the main kind of group demographic, in a sense, that unsubscribed to him.
I think, I don't know if you can. I know you used to be able to see, like, it's called analytics, where you can actually look at the age range of people that subscribe to a YouTuber and stuff. I know, like, in your own, like, when you go to your channel, you can view all that stuff. But you kind of used to have access to it on a public basis. I don't know if anymore, though, but no, it would be interesting to see, like, well, who was the group that decided, no, we're going against you?
It was the boomers. I knew it.
Yeah, all those elderly people just loved James, and then they turned on him.
No, that's really interesting. It all started, and it's, from what I recall, because this is allegedly, because I don't know everything, it's just me, my half-assed research that I've done or, looked at. Which, there I am being a hypocrite, because I'm talking about cancel culture, but I'm not doing my research on it. But allegedly, so I don't get sued. It had to do with Chella and those gummies, and how basically one of the buddies went to Chella and got things paid for and promoted something, and the other friend was like, bruh, like, I have my brand and stuff, like, you're supposed to, not that you're supposed to, but I thought you would back me up on my brand too and help me out just as much as I've helped you out, And I think that's where it kind of was like the loyalty line kind of had been crossed, or a friend had felt wronged in a sense, and kind of was like, and like her speaking out on stuff, it wasn't, some would say it'd be to be spiteful. I didn't see it that way, but there was a lot of views on it, of why someone would speak up on it, but it obviously hurt her, it hurt her, and like you said, she didn't know going into it what was going to happen, what was going to come out of it. And that almost reminds me of Well, nowadays when we post something, like you said, people are so quick to hop on the bandwagon or to join in on something, kind of like attach themselves to this idea or without thinking it. Um, I mean, we have social media now. Think about it, like 30 years ago, a social media like this would not have impacted society the way it does now. What the analogy I heard on a podcast given, Joe Rogan podcast, was road rage. Like literally, the social media is almost like today's road rage, where if an idea is presented right in front of you, we almost see it as like we want to beep and be like, no, cancel it, or delete it, shut it down. And so we honk the horn, we wave, and like blast a bunch of comments, talk shit back, and we want them to feel that rage or feel our disagreement through the computer, and but we can't. Whereas and the thing is, in road rage in person, it's like, well, there's an immediate danger to you. You're going 80 miles an hour on a freeway or whatever, and people get mad and people honk the horn and everything because everyone or anyone can get killed in this situation, And so there's like a physiological reason why we pent up this anger when we're on the road, because we sense danger, and we have our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system stimulated, and we just want to be alert all the time and stuff when we're on the road. And that piece is missing in terms of social media, where it's like the immediate danger, we don't see it, but we still practice that road rage in front of us, but the danger, we don't see it. And until we've caused havoc and looked and like seen the aftermath of the cancel culture, that's when we were like, oh, we didn't know it would cause this much of a disturbance. My words, like, I didn't think it would have caused this much of it wouldn't have ruffled this many feathers. I did not expect that, or even Tati saying like, I thought I was going to get canceled. I didn't think whatsoever that it was going to cause all of his subscribers to kind of turn on him. And going back to that idea, they not just kind of unsubscribed to him, but they also it made Tati think like put out another video. Didn't she put out another video after that?
Yeah, she did, sort of like, not quite apologizing, but it was really just, let me explain a little bit more what was going on and why I did it. I didn't want to hurt James, but I had to speak my truth. And let me elaborate a little bit more.
Because she quote unquote saw the aftermath of the road rage.
Yeah, that was it. That's why she had made a second video, because it was like, she saw exactly how much it was, and she didn't even say like, don't bring hate to him. It's like, I just had to express my experience with him, my journey. This isn't about getting on him. It's just, I had to say what I needed to say.
It reminds me also of the whole, I don't know if you heard a couple of years back, the whole controversy of Daniel Tosh. Have you ever watched the Daniel Tosh show?
Oh yeah.
On Comedy Central.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was listening to another podcast, Joe Rogan. Janet, don't roll your eyes. And he was talking to Sam Harris, a well-known author, philosopher, atheist, neuroscience. He has a few books out. And he talks about, AI, artificial intelligence, ethics, and atheism. And they were talking about a situation of kind of cancel culture in Daniel Tosh, who's a comedian. And was he at the Laugh Factory? I think he was. But basically, he was telling a joke, or they had Daniel Tosh kind of be put up on there like a filler. I don't think he was supposed to be on that night, but they just had him, go up, and he didn't have any material. And so he's like, I don't know, guys, like, what should I talk about? And some guy in the crowd was like, talk about rape. And then Daniel Tosh was like, well, what's funny about rape? You get beat up, you get this and that. And some lady was like, nothing's funny about it, like in a really serious manner, like actually nothing's funny about it and stuff. And she wanted him to apologize and recant, like, things that he said. Oh, because I'm missing this part. So when he said, she's like, nothing's wrong about rape, and then he's like, I think Daniel Tosh was like, she's right, someone should rape her or something like that. He said something really bad after that. And a lot of comedians are like, well, he's a comedian, that's what they do. They just, like, you want to heckle, like, we're gonna heckle back, we're gonna fight back, or do our job, slip in a joke, make it into a joke. And so she wanted him to apologize and all that stuff. But it's almost like like she wanted to cancel him just as much. And this whole, how we basically don't, we just, like, say something and we're like, oops, like, we didn't even come across all the avenues that it could wreak havoc on, but we clearly don't communicate online the way we would in person. Would you agree to that? Or what's your take on that?
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with that, in the sense that most of the things that people say, they would never say to someone's face. Like, they can go and say, you're a monster, you're an idiot, you're stupid, I hate you. You would never, most of the time, like, if you confront that person, they wouldn't say it to your face. They would almost avoid you, to be like, what are you talking about? Oh, I didn't mean it. They would backpedal immediately. You see it all the time when it does happen, when you actually go to someone and you confront them, like, hey, you said this. Do you want to say it to my face? And they're like, well, I didn't mean it. That,
Mm-hmm.
But
I think I've seen some celebrities do that. Like, I don't remember what show it was. I mean, because, like, everything's casted and shit, on whatever we see on TV. But it was like I think almost a pranking show. I don't know what it was, but I just remember it was this girl who was like bashing on Kim Kardashian and saying all these mean comments on her. And then Kim Kardashian, like, actually, like, went to her in person and was like, it physically went to her and was like, hi. And she's just like, oh my gosh, like, the girl was in shock that it was her present in, like, the flesh, like, she's standing right in front of me. And she kind of, like, backtracked on a lot of stuff that she said.
No, it's true. And there was this other incident in David Dobrik's vlog. Because he always brings, like, celebrities on there. I was like, hey, wouldn't it be funny to meet this person? So he had Justin Bieber on there, and he was interviewing, like, college students. He went to, like, UCLA. He goes there a lot, and like he'll interview college students. Like, hey, what do you think of Justin Bieber's new song? And one of the guys on there was like, oh, it's not it. I don't like that song. He could have done way better for a new song. And Justin pops out. So you don't like it? You don't think that's it? He's like, no. I love that song. I love that song. Yummy. That's it. Great. Like, he suddenly switched it around, because it's like, you're Justin Bieber and you're in front of me. I want to say something cool. I want to impress you. Even though it was, like, his honest comment, he's like, no, I don't like the song. Mm-hmm. As soon as he popped up, he's like, never mind, I love it. It's ridiculous.
Necio. No, I'm trying to think of a moment where that's happened to me. Let me think. Where I've said something or they've said something to me. Too traumatic. I can't. Has anyone confronted you in person?
No, I don't think I've necessarily been in a situation where I've had to like have a confrontation like that.
I
think I've.
remembered.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
No,
Oh,
I
you remember
remembered
something.
something about me.
Oh.
I think in middle school, these cheerleaders, mean girls, they told a teacher that I was texting in class, which was true, but come on, guys, like, look today. How many middle schoolers have their phone today? And their smartphones. I literally had like a keypad phone. And I would text my mom because we had this club where we're going out for lunch or whatever. And she would meet me there and like she'd pay for my meal and stuff. So I'd text her like, this is where we're going. That's the only minute. This teacher pulled me out aside in class. I remember it was in the beginning of class. Pulled me out of the line outside of the classroom in front of all the students. She just pulled me aside. She didn't make her whole speech, you know, she didn't make it loud enough for everyone to hear. She just pulled me aside in front of everyone and front and center right there. Meanwhile, all the students were still lining up. And she asked me, she's like, are you texting while like kind of like while we're getting together, grouping up in the classroom before we head out to where we're going to eat? And I said, yeah. And she just tore me a new one. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, lady, do you know how, because this lady coached the cheerleaders. I'm like, do you know how many of your cheerleader sweethearts, whatever, the ones that, you know, are flirting with the guys and like, you know, wearing short shorts and stuff. No shame, you know, wear whatever you want. But I'm like, do you know how many of your sweetheart girls are right now texting, you know, in class or whatever and shooting messages, I love you messages and stuff? You know, I was thinking that because I didn't have the balls to say it when I was younger. But she just tore me a new one. It really made me feel sad because it's like, I know exactly who told you this, and that hurts me. And because it triggered one of my fears. They saw me as an easy target. They saw, oh, there's a fat girl who's not going to say anything. Let's get her in trouble for doing this, because we want to be on the coach's good side. Let's be on her good side. Let's be coach's pet, and let's just tell on her, you know. And I had confronted one of the girls who was in the club with me, and I had a math class with them at one point, and I said, you know, I know what you did, and why did you do it? I did confront her. And she's like, she totally denied it at first. And then she's like, okay, yeah, it was me. And there was one other girl. And like, I just started bawling in class because it just confirmed everything. And I'm like, don't you see? Like, how could you hurt me? An easy target. I didn't do anything to you. You think I deserve this? But you know what? People in the world don't care about that. As long as you're getting one up in life, as long as you're getting a little bit higher in status or class or popularity or whatever it is, like, people don't care. They'll step on you regardless what you look like, anything, what you look like, where you're from, anything. Like, they'll do anything to get a one up on you, and at the expense of another person. And they denied it at first, and then they came forward. They're like, yeah, it was me. And it was two of them that also were in cahoots, and the other person just never, we kind of glossed over it. I never confronted the other person, but that person knows. And they probably forgot, to be honest. But it's funny because, like, I think that's almost the Scorpio in me, where you hold that little thorn in your heart, you know, where you're just like, they did me wrong. Even though I'll never tell them in person, I'm gonna just let it wait, you know, see what happens and stuff. But yeah, I did confront that girl, and then yeah, just it is what it is.
No, it's such a serious thing about people getting status and priority in things. It's like, if I do this, I'll be ahead of everyone else. And it's also, and it goes back to the idea of cancel culture, where it's like, it's the thing to be the victim, to be the target now. It's like, no, look at, I need sympathy. I need empathy right now because I'm hurt. Look what everyone did wrong to me. I'm not the bad guy here. I didn't do anything. And people want to call out, like, no, look how they wronged me. They exposed that picture of me one time, or they called me a liar when I wasn't. Oh, I'm the victim. Because it's easier to get people to root for you for that than to admit you were wrong.
Do you almost think it's like spectrum is not the right word, but almost like a scale to that, where it's like there's extreme cancel culture, and then there's like well, no, actually there is some point to it, and there is some facts to back that up, you know, or playing out like you make no sense. Like, do you feel that there's like some kind of pendulum there where?
Yeah, I do. That does fluctuate in terms of what is presented out there. Like some things are of like a serious nature. It's like, oh, hey, they stole $1 million from me, and they said no, and you find out it was real. Like there are serious things that happen, and there are some things that are totally irrelevant and silly, and someone blocked me from their Instagram or something, and they unfollowed me on Twitter, like because I didn't let them come to the party one time or something, like things like that. Like those are ridiculous for cancellation. Also, the other weird thing is, in recent weeks, there's been canceling of celebrities over complete lies. Like they'll be trending on Twitter. Like Hillary Duff was trending one day. Oprah was trending one day.
Were they?
Yes, because you don't have Twitter, Lisa.
I know I don't have Twitter, but believe me, I'm hearing what's popping. I heard what's popping this week. We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. But, back a couple of months ago, there's a whole thing about Oprah all over Twitter. She was trending number one. They're like, oh, why? And everyone's saying the police had raided her house because she was what's the word I'm looking for? She was like sex trafficking kids.
Oh, I heard Hillary Clinton.
Uh-huh.
She was on the news too this week.
Mm-hmm. I didn't hear about that one.
The emails.
Oh, I have to look.
Same kind of thing with emails and so Hillary Clinton was trending this week because of, I don't know the full story, but some emails going around, and while a lot of people were advocating and speaking on the BLM movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, they were there were some memes going around where it's like, how they let this slip. Meanwhile, we're protesting. There's rioters around. There's police brutality going on. How is it that we missed this hearing with Hillary Clinton and these emails she had to account for, or like test or say her part on or something like that. But that's true. The media distracting us.
Stay informed, people.
Mm-hmm. But you were talking about Oprah trending and
Hillary
Duff trending.
The thing is, though, it's like this is the ridiculousness of cancel culture, where Oprah was trending for a complete lie, saying her house was just raided, that she's caught in child sex trafficking ring, and she tweeted, "I was just told about this. This is ridiculous. No one is at my house. This is a complete lie." And then it was a couple weeks ago, Hillary Duff was being trending for the same thing, saying, "Oh, Hillary Duff is sex trafficking children and stuff." And
it's like one person behind the computer.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'll just insert a different name this week. And then she was like, "Yeah, I just see what's going on. Complete lies. You people have no better way to waste your time than this." Mm-hmm. But it's that, and I think it's just people find it entertaining to like, hey guys, wouldn't it be hilarious to go ahead and make up this big rumor that someone's committing these crimes? It's so ridiculous, and I think it's just
until they hit the dark.
Yeah, until when on the rare occasions like, it's true. I don't think it's happened yet. But it just shows that it's like it's almost a norm to be like, yeah, we'll just cancel someone, yeah, or just go ahead and like hoard on someone. It's like, no, like that's a human being at the end of the day. And it's so easy to sit behind the computer and get on the hashtag and go ahead and say, yeah, cancel this person. But it's so easy to get behind the computer and say, you know, this person's over, you're canceled. But as soon as it turns to you and you're at the brunt of something, then you realize, oh, wait, this isn't fun. Never mind. I can't handle this. This is horrible. Because it is.
Do you almost think that the way, because going back to the whole, like, we clearly don't speak on social media the way we would in person. Do you, the way, okay, I confronted this girl or whatever in person, and she was very empathetic and a little bit sympathetic. She's like, damn, this girl looks really sad. Like, are you okay, Luz? Like, you know, 12-year-old Luz, are you okay? Excuse me. But going back to that, she was very sympathetic in the situation, where it's like, I hurt you. She was almost like that one friend who doesn't know what to do in this situation, or that one person that doesn't know what to do in the situation, where it's like, you are clearly upset. I acknowledge that, but I don't know how to help you. That's how her reaction was. Mm-hmm. And I think that was enough, like her acknowledging that I was hurt and that she hurt me. That was enough for me to kind of see forgiveness in the situation and seek redemption in the situation. And I was able to see her in human light, where it's like, okay, she also doesn't know what to do in this situation. She didn't know that this would have the impact on me. She just acted on it like road rage. She just acted on an impulse, and I want to be one up with the coach, I'm just gonna tear this girl's self-esteem apart. Let's do it. She didn't see the repercussions with that, and she, with her seeing how visibly hurt I was, like I said, I saw forgiveness in the situation, or I saw her in another light. And fakeness was still there, but I saw her in a different light. But it's to the point where it's like, I'm not gonna, like, I still have to see you, like, when I come to math class tomorrow morning, I can't just cancel you out, like, you're physically there. There's some people where you're going to see them and encounter them, and you can't just block them. You can't block them from, if you see them in the store, like, yeah, sure, you block them online. You sure blocked them on social media, but you're going to see them in person at some point, maybe, there's no, unless you get a restraining order, and that you need like some real concrete evidence to try and pull that together.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. It's just like, when you really get in front of someone and confront them about it, it's like, their story normally changes, or they're like, oh man, I hurt you. Maybe I can recognize that. I don't know what to do. And that's the thing, is that people don't realize it's like exactly how far something's going to go when they put it out there. And it's like, oh, there's this great story where it's like, this woman goes to confession, and she goes to the priest, and she says, oh, I've been lying. I've been gossiping. And he's like, all right, for your penance,
me,
I want you to go home, take a pillow, and I want you to rip out all the feathers that are in your pillow, and then I want you to go and pick them up. And then she comes back again for confession, and he asks her, like, oh, how did it go? He's like, oh, I was able to do it and tear it open, but suddenly the wind had picked it all up, and the feathers had scattered all over the place, and I couldn't get them all back. I couldn't find them all, and they'd spread too far, and I couldn't grasp it. And it's like, that's exactly what happens when you lie, when you gossip. it spreads beyond your control. You can't contain it anymore at that point because, you know, it spreads like wildfire, and then suddenly you're, you know, at the bad end of it. And what are you going to do? It's too late. You started that.
When someone has wronged you, or you felt like, you know, something has happened, what do you do? What would you do in a situation? Would you be at first hesitant to confront the person, or how would you handle that? If you were to encounter a quote unquote cancel situation.
I mean, I haven't quite come fully into a cancel situation. I've had a situation maybe a few years ago where it was like that, where I had a falling out with someone one time. And it did get very volatile. We weren't friendly at all. It wasn't good. And, you know, I'll be honest, we were both saying a lot of things about each other. I did have to get to a point where it was like, okay, these things are getting ridiculous. I've never heard this. People are saying this now. This is too much. We have to try to work together at some point on some things, because we had to just, there were moments where we had to be together. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and be the adult. I'm going to confront you and say, hey, we need to acknowledge what's going on. We need to stop this. It's ridiculous at this point. I don't even know what's going on. Why are we even doing this anymore at this point? But listen, I want to be cordial. We have to work together on this project we're doing.
Like, you approached them one-on-one.
Yeah, I approached them one-on-one. I went and pulled them aside and I said, hey, let's go ahead and please discuss this. You know, clearly we know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And it's not healthy, and it's making situations pretty bad. Let's go and figure this out. And we did. It didn't solve our friendship or anything, but it had made things much more bearable to work with, and we immediately stopped whatever was going on, and it stopped between everyone else. Because, like, hey, listen, we're calling it quits on this whole fight, because I confronted him about it. We spoke about it, and okay, that's it. We've cleared it up as best we can. We dropped it. Everyone else drop it too. But that's how I try to do it in most situations, like, just to be upfront. And I tell people all the time, if you have an issue with me, I'm willing to talk about it. Sure, feelings can get hurt. We're human. That happens. But, you know, there's not going to be any resolution unless we talk about it. Mm-hmm. So,
do you ever take to social media?
Oh, no, never. Because I think it's just so ridiculous to do. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to perpetuate that. If I go to social media, I'm only talking about myself. Whatever it is I want to promote or say things, it pertains things to myself. I never want to put another person out there. They may do that about me, and that's fine. I don't care. Mm-hmm. But it's like I would never do that to someone else, because I don't like that behavior. I don't like that culture. I don't want to perpetuate it. So I would never take, like, to social media and say this about them, or tweet them, or spill all this tea. I just never do that. Would you lose
on social media? Who knows? I make a fake account. No, I only asked that because I feel like a lot of people, maybe social media is their outlet. They might not have, like, a quote unquote in-person venting friend or anything like that. So social media is their outlet. Like, Neve from Catfish, you know, explores all these different types of people who are behind the computer, and some of their stories, like, are kind of, you almost feel bad for the person behind the computer, because it, like, even though they've been, you know, telling all these lies and keeping them up for maybe 5 to 8+ years, you almost feel bad for the other person, because it's like, this person has nothing, like, just the computer in some instances, you know. So he really opened up that avenue and shedding light to the other person behind the screen, and it's like, well, there clearly is an issue. There's clearly people upset on both sides. Let's kind of shed light to that and see where that leads to. And I think they did they did their best in like showing, kind of displaying that and stuff. And but it's pretty interesting to see, because it's like you yeah, in a twisted way, you almost feel bad for the person who was lying, you know, 'cause it's just like they don't have a venting outlet, they don't have someone they can talk to in person and stuff. Because a lot of us think like our first instincts are to vent to, if someone has wronged us, and even if it's serious, go to your parents, the one people who, you know, like brought you life and stuff. Like you vent to your parents because they are quote unquote that trusting figure, that person that, you know, is always going to have your back, or, you know, has that bracket of security under, you know, home. And they fall under that bracket into like family and shelter. And so the first thing is like, oh, we go to our parents, but then not everyone has their parents, so then you go to a close friend and stuff if you feel really wronged, you know. But I do see that there's a trend of people taking to Twitter on things, you know, like, you know, where it's like I cannot say this to my parents or people close to me, but let me hit the send button on Twitter, because at least it's out there. But I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, those instances, I get it's maybe in some people's personal lives they don't have any other outlet but to take to the openness of social networks and Twitter and Instagram and things like that. I can feel for those people in that sense, for a sense of loneliness, sure, but that also doesn't, it puts context as to why they do it, but it doesn't excuse that behavior. You know, they have to obviously adjust and learn, you know, to tackle things differently and to find healthier outlets. Not that social media can't be it, but it has to be done in a different way. And they have to find another outlet that's not as toxic or dangerous as what people spew out there. You know, there's kind of a whole instance going on right now.
There is. Shall we talk about it?
Yeah, I think it's time to dive into it a little bit. Sure.
All right.
I mean, basically, within this past week, there's been a lot of. It's a very touchy subject, obviously, and we take it seriously. But there's been a lot of cancel culture, but it's pertaining to. There's been a lot of allegations made against a lot of men lately in our town.
There has. So I've gotten chunks of the story. I don't even know the full story, but on, I want to say it was Saturday, I was on Instagram, you know, watching my Instagram stories, and I've seen a few girls that I follow. They were posting on their story kind of the share post or a similar post in each of their stories that, you know, had the same identical picture on it. So I'm like, excuse me, I was like, what's this all about? So I click on the post, and it's this link to another page, to another account, and it basically had a story of this girl's experience with a guy. So I was seeing similar posts of these girls, and so then I click on it. I'm like, let's see what this is about. And I see a video of this girl clearly distraught, and she's talking about an experience she had with an ex, and she was going on. Started talking about how she felt pressured in a situation, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even watch the whole video. That was like how bad I am of a researcher. I didn't even watch the whole video, but I just seen the post, and it was getting a lot of shares and a lot of likes, and the comments were just like they were popping. They were going on and on and on and on. And I think I kept just kept swiping, because there was a about 4 or 5 posts on there also where it was like pictures, and then even an audio clip of this guy, the way this guy was talking to this girl, and which was kind of, that one was like, it was an audio clip, and it was talking about forcing the car into a car crash, and I was like, oh, that's like all I heard too. And so I was just like, like everyone is sharing this, and it basically had to do with sexual assault, rape, or some kind of inappropriate behavior going on. And then I was like, what's going on? I asked, the people around me in my circle, I'm like, hey, have you guys heard about this? And they're like, oh, you don't know half of it. And they started going on about this story about on Twitter that was popping. This got like, just it was just like, whoa, like, has every person in this city gone through an experience like this? Have they been wronged, and it just it kind of started a whole conversation about what is considered inappropriate, what is considered assault, what is considered wronged, like, and how we express that also. Like, it just started a whole conversation within I think the town. What do you think?
I think that this whole Twitter thing has obviously started a dialogue about consent, people's experiences, people finally finding the strength to share something that has happened to them. There's still a lot of blurry things. It's a lot of, there's a lot of accusations. We can't say for sure what exactly yet can be confirmed or not confirmed.
Mm-hmm. We'll keep you guys updated.
But of course, we obviously, we want to support anyone who's been hurt that way, and we take it seriously. And but it has opened the dialogue, and people are starting to say, hey, you know what? This has happened to me. It makes me think of the whole Me Too movement, because you think 10 years ago, this was non-existent. This wouldn't have happened. And it really started with the whole, Harvey Weinstein was a big story that broke about it. And I was doing a little bit of research about this. He's such a terrible person. It really started because there's an article in the New York Times by Jodi Kantor and Rachel Abrams that came out. Sorry if I butchered any names. But they had talked to all these women who had been harassed by Harvey Weinstein. They collected a long list of names, and they finally came forward. And, there were 2 prominent women in the story. Angelina Jolie was one of them, and Gwyneth Paltrow was the other one. Gwyneth Paltrow's story was that it was in the 90s. She was a new actress, and she'd gotten a message to go meet Harvey Weinstein. They were gonna talk about something, and it's like, oh, come to my hotel room. She had suspected nothing. She goes in there, and he says, oh, let's go get massages. And he makes a pass at her. He tries putting his hands on her, and she rushes out of the room, and she never suspected that he would ever pull a move like that or do anything. That's like my uncle. That's like a father figure. And she went and told her boyfriend at the time, Brad Pitt, and she was on Howard Stern talking more about it, and he was asked, like, what did Brad Pitt do?
He
And
swung.
no,
No, I don't know. Did he?
Almost. He kind of basically, they went to like an industry party, and he, a little bit after it just happened, like a couple days, and he saw Harvey, and he basically went up to him and like the equivalent to just throwing him against the wall and says, if you ever make her feel uncomfortable or do anything to her ever again, I will kill you.
Oh.
And Harvey never did anything again to her. And you know, Brad Pitt at the time was a big star. He could pull that move, but she was brand new. She had no
Scientology, cover it up.
You know, but so Brad was a big star and he could pull that stuff, and Gwyneth couldn't. So she was obviously very thankful for that. And same thing with Angelina Jolie, where same thing, went to a hotel room. He tried making a move on her. She said no. She went off, and she never worked with him again. I never talked to him again. And it was really an inside joke that, you know, that's just terrible to be an inside joke, but it was. The funny thing, at the 2013 Oscars, Seth MacFarlane was hosting that year, and he had made this joke.
This is before they came out?
This is before. So the news article in the New York Times by Jodie and Rachel, and then the subsequent article in the New Yorker by Ronan Farrow. So that was all in 2017 in October. This was 2013. Seth MacFarlane was hosting, and he had made this joke saying, congratulations, you 5 ladies. This is for the lead actresses. You 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein. And everyone laughed because it's true. Like, Hollywood knew it, that's like, of course he has a whole casting couch. Of course he seduces these girls in the room. And, you know, in the articles you read by Ronan and Jodie and Rachel, they talk about, you know, he had a crew around him. He had his secretaries, he had executive producers that they would set up the appointments. And of course they had to hear what was going on, and they would, you know, get help to set the payments up to pay the woman off. Or like if he had executive producers were like, oh no, we're going to give you this role in this movie now, you know, and there are actors saying, I never said anything because he would destroy me. I've seen him destroy people. I didn't want to lose everything. Mm-hmm. But, you know, once everyone said it, it's like, who's he going to attack now? Who can, you know, what movie is he going to make? You know, all these women came forward and they were able to take the power away from him, which was important. You saw the same thing happen with Bill Cosby.
As Janet would say, Pill Cosby.
And Matt Lauer, this big news guy who'd been in everyone home for years and years. And, you know, women came forward and saying they were, you know, assaulted by him. And it was just, time's up. That movement too is like, it wasn't capable anymore. It's like, it's unfortunate because it was such a hidden thing in Hollywood for so long. Mm-hmm. I mean, now finally it came up to where, you know, you can come forward and you do have the ability to do so, and people will take you seriously.
That reminds me of these girls on Twitter coming forward and, you know, saying something. And at some point, I mean, you have the argument of, like, I hear a lot of guy talk around me because I'm hang out with the boys a lot, but a lot of the guy talk is like, they're coming forward right now, you know, like, now that they're how many years back? What's the statute of limitations? And the thing is like, there is no rule book, you know, there is no one in life, they don't give you a rule book to say, oh, this is the time when you should speak up. This is like, no one tells you this stuff. Or, you know, if you're put in that predicament also, you know, you wouldn't know what to do, or you would you being in a situation you're going to look at it differently than you being a specter of it, you know? And so there is that argument where it's like, well, these girls came out how long ago? Like it was how long ago since
It's been like a week and a half.
A week and a half. And then going back to the Harvey Weinstein one, these girls were, it was years until they came out and finally were like, okay, we do have the posse and the support system to, have a voice. So now we're gonna, attack, yeah. But seek justice. And so there is that argument where it's like, when is the time? And I mean, I don't know.
There's never, and it's so hard because how do you ask someone who's been through a traumatic experience like that to come, okay, all right, it just happened. All right, tomorrow you're going to go ahead and fill out a report and do all these things. Like, they've been through a traumatic experience physically, mentally, emotionally. You're asking them to suddenly be stable and, okay, you're going to go ahead and tell the world everything, especially when it's on top of just the trauma of it, especially if it's like someone in power. Like, you look back in the days of when Harvey was on top, when Bill Cosby and Matt Lauer, all these things, it's like, who am I, just one person, going to go up against this person who has all the power in the world? How am I going to do that? But when someone does choose to come forward and it's their time, as best we can, support them and reach out for them, because it's not easy to be able to do that. And people, sometimes you hear the arguments like, why'd you wait so long? It's like, it's trauma. It's not easy to be able to say I was a victim. Maybe they weren't in the position, that was their boss, and it's like, I have to unfortunately bite through it until I find a different job or something. Like, there's all these circumstances that we can't necessarily just go ahead and say, oh, why'd you wait so long? It's like, no, it's complicated. And
because there's almost a stigma that you're afraid of too.
Yeah, that it's like, oh, this is going to happen, or people will label me this or think that. And that's why sometimes these women wait so long. And it happens to men too, of course. Why these people wait so long, because it's like there's a stigma, there's just repercussions, there's retaliation, all these fears that hold people back. But obviously now the culture is changing, where it's like you can come forward and you're not vilified for it anymore.
That reminds me of this podcast I was listening to. It was called TOC, True Crime Obsessed, and let me look up the name really quick, but it was basically this yoga guy. It's always that yoga guy, that creepy yoga guy who be hitting you up. So, okay, I found the guy's name. So his name was Bikram Chaudhry, and he was a yoga guru instructor. And I'm just going to read the biopsy. The little details that they have on the podcast, but it was they're really theatrical too. Hu and Gay Hal exercises in a room heated to 105 degrees. Sweating and stretching isn't our jam, but Bikram Chaudhry, we have a request into Jesus to have his last name changed. We will not have Rabbi's last name besmirched. Recruited thousands of people to try his so-called new brand of yoga. He broke them down physically and mentally at his training workshops, which served as recruitment centers for his sexual predator ways. Girl smells like a cult to us. And all yoga ones are cults. Allegedly, they say. And, excuse me. But it's basically this yoga guy who is a creep, who is being creeper, and he would tell these girls, meet me in my room and we're going to practice some yoga, and put your right foot here and your left foot here, and I'm going to snap you over, and he basically do that, and he'd have them late at night. And these girls were saying, and after the experience was done, where it's like he clearly raped me, I still bowed and said thank you, like when I walked out the door. And that reminds me of this whole kind of like this whole thing where you've just been assaulted and you still almost don't want to break this reverence, or this weird kind of like hurt the other person's feelings, because God forbid. But when you're in this situation, you're just like, you don't know how to react. You still haven't even registered to yourself what just happened.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me, the comedian, the actress Amy Schumer.
Mm-hmm.
She spoke in interviews a couple of years back that she did have, a sexual assault experience. It was with her boyfriend, and she admits, like, the odd thing was, she, in the moment after it happened, she was almost comforting him. Like, she was saying, "Oh, don't cry, it's okay." Like, because I mean, I would say look it up, and you can hear the interview and exactly what happened. But she said it was a weird scenario. Like, he was my boyfriend. He did this thing though without my consent, but I still, in this weird dynamic, I found, like, me comforting him, making sure, like, he was okay. She admits, like, it was weird. But she says, like, but he did obviously assault me, but it was like I was in this weird scenario where, like, even though I was clearly hurt, I had to make sure he was okay too. It was very bizarre, and it's just kind of reminded me of that situation where it's like, oh, even though she was, like, attacked, she's like, but let me show this reverence, this acknowledgement of this person.
It reminds me of I don't know why it reminds me of this, but like a car accident. You get into a car accident and you almost have these, you don't feel it at first, all the nooks and crannies and, like, the damage, the accident has caused on your body, because you have this adrenaline rushing through you, and you don't notice, like, you have a broken leg. Like, you're just concerned about everyone else. You're like, is everyone okay? Let's assess the situation. What just went on, And then you wake up the next day and it's like, one at that day, in that moment that you went to the accident, you got into it, you talk to the insurance company and you're like, no, I'm fine, I feel fine. But then you wake up the next day and you feel like shit, and you're just like, fuck my leg. Like, it really is, it does hurt. And because that adrenaline, though your nervous system has just, like, found it time to kind of recuperate and, like, register what just happened. Your body still hasn't adjusted to that in that moment that you were in the accident, but, like, the next day you're like, whoa, like, I'm feeling it now. And I almost think that, like, you're quick to put that kind of comforting measure into certain situations, or you don't want to, you haven't registered it yet, but you kind of act on, like, is everything else okay, before you kind of reflect on yourself, or like, wait, am I okay? But yeah, like, I that's not the first time I've heard of, people after they've been wronged and then saying, oh, thank you, or, even kissing them, or, going back to assault, but Stockholm syndrome, not Stockholm, what is it called when they rob someone? And
I think you are talking about Stockholm
syndrome, basically.
Yeah, where it's basically it's the idea where, like, you get kidnapped, but you essentially fall in love with your kidnappers. Like, they condition you. It's like, oh no, like, they're like my family. They're my boyfriend. I actually love them.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like they basically brainwash you to thinking, oh no, you're safe, you're fine.
Because you've created this identity almost with them, and
exactly, you've created this identity, this room, this space where it's like, it's us actually.
Suspicious. So cancel culture.
No, yeah, cancel culture. It's pretty toxic out there. I really think, especially in the times we are right now, that people are so quickly to get these ridiculous rumors trending about celebrities when, we as the public should really be using our voice to support better platforms, to bring causes that are actually worthwhile and actually need addressing, people who are real victims, especially with the current movement right now. That's what really needs to be out there. People shining light on the things that need to change and need to be better, not just, did you hear it happen with this celebrity today? It's ridiculous in that sense. Even with each other too, it's just like with friendships, it's like, I'll cancel you, you'll cancel me, you're over. It's so stupid.
I think it even goes back to I'm not going to say this is the fix, but it's a start. Education. So you're going to educate someone on what is sexual assault, or what is, being wronged, or, in a quote unquote inappropriate. I feel like especially sexual assault, that is such a growing up, even in the classroom, like in our setting, fundamentals and elementary and stuff, like that was such a taboo subject. We get one day about puberty, and that's it. That's like the one day you get to talk about, sexy, and that's it. You can't, it's not allowed in school anymore, because the Bible says no talk about sexy.
The Bible says no sex.
No sex. And schools, have taken out politics and religion and education. Like, you're not going to see that in the education system. And that's why we have a problem today, that's why we have trouble doing our taxes today as like 28-year-olds, and so it's like we've put this line of, we cannot talk about this, and so therefore that kind of gets swept under the rug. And so it's this almost like this gray area where what is considered sexual assault, inappropriate, being wronged, and if no one wants to talk about it, then we're all going to have different, we all have different opinions on it, but we're all going to not be well informed on the subject, for sure.
No, I completely agree with you. Education is such a big part to solving the problem, because yes, the great thing that has happening now is they are addressing the perpetrators, the people who are creating victims, but you have to look at the behavior, the education that's led to these people. And a big part of it is really getting people at a young age, informing them about consent, what it means, people's boundaries, and also really talking to boys about sex. Because the big thing is, it's like there's been an amazing movement in the past recent 20, 30 years about talking to girls about their bodies, about sexuality, about feeling empowered. And Peggy Orenstein, who wrote a great book about girls and sex, really did a great job about exploring that, interviewing girls, and really helped revolutionize that. But really, in her work and what she's realized is that boys have pretty much been left in the dark. And because we always sort of say, boys will be boys. They'll know what to do. Why do we talk to them? They shut their rooms. They lock the doors. They just become men. What do we need to say to anything about them? And the problem is she realized, wait a minute, if our girls have been neglected so long, and we always think, men are in power, but like there's moments where they're boys. What happens at that moment beforehand? And she did a lot of research. She wrote this great new book she recently put out within the past, couple months, called Boys and Sex. Sort of the counter, the counterpiece, not counterpiece, but it's the companion piece to Girls and Sex. And she does a lot of great research into hookup culture with guys, what it means, pornography, how they tackle it, how they talk about their emotions, actually the lack of from their parents, from their peers.
Pornography?
Yeah.
I don't do that though.
What do you mean? I don't watch those type of things.
Yeah, I don't watch those type of things. The Bible says no pornography. Pornography.
but she made this really great, amazing book, and it's really picking up a dialogue that hasn't happened before. I highly suggest everyone check it out. It's Peggy Orenstein, Boys and Sex. And there's this one anecdote where this guy, funny enough, he was, worried about being, quote, a fuck boy, about, having this, being labeled a slut, and he's a player and he gets all these girls. And funny enough, he at his college was actually giving consent workshops, and it wasn't.
Did he go to college in LA or where?
She didn't say where it was at. I mean, some of the names are changed and stuff to help protect identities. It might say in the book or not, but she was talking to this guy, and he's worried, I don't want to be labeled a fuck boy. And he was actually giving these workshops about consent and, boundaries and things like that. And he was realizing, I probably have been hypocritical. I haven't been, not that he hadn't, assaulted any women, but he also wasn't treating them with the utmost respect that he could, or having the best encounters that he could. And he's like, I kind of had to have a wake-up call and, realize I was kind of being a hypocrite with, I sleep with all these girls, but I also talk about, like, not to do that too. But it's a great book, and I highly recommend everyone read it. At any age you can learn something, whether you're a parent, not a parent, you're a teenage boy yourself. It gives so much insight. But education is where it's at. It's like you have to raise these boys and girls to understand their bodies. Don't make sex a shameful thing. That's where it happens. You have to give them proper tools. Don't leave them in the dark. Give them that knowledge. Give them that ability to know something and arm themselves properly.
Or, well, my personal experience with it, literally the only time I've ever heard my mom talk about sex was I asked to go to sleepover, and she said, I don't even remember what grade I was, probably like in 5th, 6th grade. And she said, no, what did she say? She said, no, we need to get you on birth control first, or something, like some weird thing about that. She's like, no, she just said no. All Hispanic moms say no, but it was almost like, we need to get you on birth control first.
That vexes me, Luce.
I know.
That's part of the problem. Is you have these parents so afraid of, like, I can't talk about my kids about this. No, they're too young. Oh my gosh, they're gonna freak out. It's like, you freak them out that way. Mm-hmm. Like you're really putting them in more danger by not explaining anything. And you expect this in America. It's gotten better. It's not necessarily the most well-informed sexual education system. It's getting better, of course, but there's still a lot more, like these books, these resources, but just, and that's the thing with the older generation. Like, they're so closed off. They're like, we don't talk about that. What do you need to know about that? You're not old enough.
When is a time when I'm in my grave? Life's short, You don't know when I'm gonna like be gone. When's the time to talk about it? When we're putting the town in flames, like, is that when? I don't know.
Exactly. It's just,
or when we're assaulting girls, or when
it's too late. Yeah. You finally say something.
Assaulting girls or boys. Sorry, correction, because men can also be victims.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. It's like sometimes nothing's said until it's too late, and it's like these parents are so prudish and not wanting to say anything or give you. And I was listening to a podcast interview with Peggy Orenstein, and what she's told, like, what are boys? What are you told about so often? Not, they're told, don't get a girl pregnant and respect women. Okay, then that's, so many guys have said that's all the education I was ever given or ever told about anything. Don't get someone pregnant, respect women. And their boys are like, well, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. What do you mean respect them? Like, in what like, how? What do you mean by that? And then they just shut the door and leave them in the dark.
Nothing about accountability, nothing about sexual assault, nothing about necio.
Nothing, necios. All of them. But yeah, it's just like there's that whole lack of, and it's just people being so afraid to talk about something that's natural and that happens to everyone. And it's again, it just comes back to education. You can't leave someone in the dark like that. You're ultimately, there's more harm being caused by not talking about it and by not arming people with proper knowledge.
I love this scene from Good Boys. I have to I don't remember quite, but I just remember the boys were upstairs in the room and they had this sex doll in the room and they were practicing kissing because they were going to go to a spin the bottle party and or 7 minutes in heaven party. And so they were practicing and this guy was like, the kid was approaching, the doll, and he's like, wait, he's like, did you ask for consent first? And they were all like, yeah, the assembly, like they were teaching us about consent and stuff. And hey, that's a good start. Maybe we should start having like assemblies, in the schools or something to introduce that.
No, it's funny as a scenario that is. It's like, that's true. It's like, it's even those little kids like, no, we got to ask. We got to make sure this person's comfortable with what I want to do, that we're on the same page.
Circle of Grace.
Circle of Grace. For those of you who don't know, Circle of Grace, we had to do some workshop training at church a year ago, and basically it was the only class I attended to. They had taught something different in a different class, but the class I had went to about it was like, okay, if we're working with kids, we have to make sure we teach them this technique. It's called the Circle of Grace, and basically, you put your arms out like all the way, like both arms, and that whole area around you is your circle of grace, and that is your comfort level, all this. And should
circumference
and your circumference, and should anyone enter that and you feel uncomfortable, you can tell them, like, you can yell, you can tell them, this is my circle of grace, please don't go beyond this. And you can tell the teacher or whoever your adult supervisor is, like, hey, they're in my circle of grace, I feel uncomfortable. And it's things like that, telling kids, like, you have a boundary that is respectable, and here's what is okay and not okay.
Which is a good start. You're telling them, hey, letting them know, if you feel uncomfortable, speak up in that moment.
Exactly. And it's just about it boils down to education, about creating an atmosphere where it's okay if something happens to say it, and to establish your boundaries. Like, we need those key things to, like, and you can help situations so much more just with that.
Do you think past generations have looked onto this taboo subject? And I mean, of course they've swept it under the rug. What do you think the rationale is, though?
I think it's just years of sort of this oppression and this idea of, like you said, it's taboo. You don't talk about sex or anything like that, especially about assault. You just don't. Like, it was the idea that a man is in charge and a woman is just submissive, that there's not, what are you going to say? Also, it was like women need, beforehand, it's like they were supportive on the husbands and they needed this man to be the breadwinner, and obviously that's changed now. And I think it's just so hard for older generations to grasp the idea of speaking up out of turn from a man. And it's just the idea of shame too, that, like, how could I ever say that something happened, or even talk to my kids about sex? I wouldn't say that.
There was I'm gonna botch the meme, but Janet showed us this meme today where it was like, the family will disown the gay, but they'll keep the child molester in the family a secret. Carry that in.
Which is true. Well,
hush about that, but God forbid you have a gay in the family. You're canceled.
It's crazy just to think, 20, 30 years ago, like none of this stuff was happening. And you think like that's like the 90s, the late 80s. And it's like you think now 2020 that just how much the culture has changed. It still needs a lot of changing, a lot of education. It's progress for sure, but it's informing kids now and getting them to understand these things that,
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because I think there's going to be creative educators out there that are going to incorporate things more and find ways to incorporate it.
Oh yeah, you're seeing it now. I mean, with like Peggy Ornstein, with the people who like who do the workshop about like Circle of Grace, and you have those great older people who've been the doctors and everything who are coming up with like, no, I want to be a support for change, and they are implementing that to us and to people. And even with me, it's not like this was taught to school. Like, if I want to learn something, I have to look into it. And again, that's why I love podcasts. There's so much knowledge out there with them. But do your research, and it is getting more and more out there. And there's going to be a lot of great things to come up with all the new knowledge and research that's being done.
This is not that it was sad. It was an education point, but it's when something happened that something got addressed. The school police officer would come in and talk to the students about an incident that happened with someone, and they basically were like, if you feel uncomfortable, you need to speak up and tell us. I remember I was probably like in 6th grade, and this actually happened to, I'm afraid she's gonna hear too, but this happened to one of my friends, and this hobo one day, she was walking to school, 6th grader, little innocent girl, she was walking to school, and this hobo had like a robe, and he was naked underneath. And what is it called when you
flash someone?
Voyeurism? Is it voyeurism when you just flash?
That's exhibitionism, I think.
Exhibitionism. That's what it is. Exhibitionism. So he just like flashed and was like what you see, and he was like wiggling his junk and shit. And she was traumatized and went to school crying and stuff, and everyone was like, "What's wrong?" And that incident kind of sparked some wildfire, and it made the school react in a way where it's like, okay, we need to hold an assembly and we need to talk about this if this were to ever happen again. So that initiated kind of action in the school, and they hit the pause button. They were like, okay, something happened. What makes this can happen again, so let's inform them. If this were ever to happen again, we're going to do this. And yeah, within that week, this was going on. And I saw it. My friend didn't come out and say it, that it was her. We could tell she was distraught that week, and something happened. She wouldn't speak on it. She might have told 1 or 2 people, but I mean, our friend circle was talked amongst themselves, and it basically got out. Yeah, it was her. Not the whole school knew it was her, but just our friends circle. It was like through process of elimination, adding up stuff, throughout the week. It's like, okay, this was her. This happened to her. And yeah, I'm pretty sure like it affected her in ways where she didn't expect it at that moment, being that young and everything. But I do recall not until something happened did someone do something about it, which is a good starting point. I mean, we all want to, the best thing is education and preventative measures before it actually happens, It's a start though.
It is, and I think it's a key to that when something unfortunate does happen, that you take action with it. It's like, okay, let's try to pull as much good out of this awful scenario. And there can be. It's about, okay, we're going to have more preventative measures. And the important thing is supplying the knowledge, but also when the incident does occur, that the action is taken too. Like, you have to have both things, because a ton of knowledge isn't going to do you any good if you don't put it to use. So they need to be coinciding together.
That's right. What's the time?
How far have we been doing this?
We're at an hour 53, almost 54 minutes.
Almost 2 hours? We got to wrap this up.
Almost 2 hours.
All right, that's it, guys.
All right. We talked about a lot of great things today. A lot of tough things, but we hope you got to take away a lot of good information, and that there's always support around you. We're here to support you. And don't be afraid to speak up. Educate yourselves. Stay strong. Educate. And so that's it for us this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys again soon.
Bye.
Bye. 2 hours. Oh, no.